Welcome to MilSpouse Matters, the podcast dedicated to encouraging military spouses. I'm your host, Jen McDonald, and I was a military spouse for nearly 30 years until my husband's retirement. I'm now the mom of 4 young adults, including 1 active duty son. I also wrote the book, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse. Through my experiences, I came to believe that we're only stronger together. Whatever life is throwing your way as a military spouse, let's talk about it. Hello, and welcome to this Quick Tips episode. This is Jen, and today we're going to be talking about getting through deployment with our teens. So often, deployment resources are geared towards younger children, and while that's important, and I've also covered it before multiple times, and I'll link to those episodes and blog posts, today, we are focusing on our teenagers. Teens are so amazing, challenging, and wonderful, if you know, as a parent of teens, all at the same time. Helping our teens get through the deployment of a parent is a privilege, but it's also a time that we can use all the help we can get. Our military family went through multiple deployments, and one of my claims to fame is getting through a year-long deployment of my husband when all 4 of my kids were teenagers at the same time. So if I can do it, you can do it too. What follows is part of a talk I gave during the Pillar Deployment Retreat in fall of 2022 about helping your teens and yourself through a parent's deployment. And speaking of, be looking for more information about the 2023 Pillar Retreat in the coming months. I will be speaking again, this time about relating with your in-laws, both from the perspective of a military spouse and as a mother-in-law and a mother of a military member. So as I mentioned, our family went through numerous deployments and TDYs. If we added it all up, I don't even know how many years worth it would be. For our oldest son, his dad was deployed for 2 out of his 4 years in high school. So first, a couple of reminders for you as the parent of a teen. You'll need patience, communication, and extra care, both for yourself and for your teen. And your family is unique. There is no one right way to get through the deployment of a parent. So tip number 1 is remember, you don't have to do this alone. You're already doing this by listening to this podcast. Build or make use of your community, coaches, teachers, other significant adults like a school counselor or a youth pastor who can be helping look out for your kids. All hands on deck. My children all had amazing youth leaders and coaches who helped look after them during my husband's deployments, and it's a relief to know that others who care about your kids are also aware of what's going on. Be sure to make use of military resources like Military One Source. They have tons of resources on their site that are free. The Military Family Support Center, whatever your branch calls it on your base, your chaplain, take advantage of deployment support groups or dinners. I know it's not fun to go alone, or you may not feel like you need it, but try it out. Get support for you as the parent. Reach out and admit you need help. Find those people who will sit with you, celebrate your kids' achievements, and look in places you might not think about. For instance, when we lived in Hawaii, my children were part of what they called small groups called cadres. And so there were several other moms that I met. We were dropping our kids off, and we ended up just having coffee while our kids were in their small group Bible studies. And we called ourselves the Madres. And we're still in touch all these years later. Think about events you might need help with or milestones that are coming up. For instance, college visits. My dad went with me and our oldest son when we came back to the States from Germany to take some college trips because my husband was deployed. So to look around to see who can help support you in events, milestones, birthdays, anything like that that's coming up that you don't want to have to go through alone. Tip number 2, have a family meeting. The beautiful thing about teens is they will have an opinion, and they are usually open to sharing it. But the flip side of that is that they still need us to help them, look out for them, and possibly even urge them to do things they might not want to. So before or shortly after the other parent deploys, talk about what everyone needs and set some goals. It will be different for every child. Is it alone time every week? Do they need to have something fun to look forward to regularly? If the deployed parent will miss holidays and birthdays that are coming up, talk about how you'll handle them. You might be surprised. During one Thanksgiving season, only our 2 youngest were still left at home, my girls, and we had a lot of invitations to come over to other people's houses, and we talked about it and decided what we wanted to do was stay in our pajamas, fix our favorite foods, and watch Gilmore Girls all day. and we had a great Thanksgiving that year. Tip number 3 is listen more and talk less. Especially if you have several children, it can be easy to not connect for days or even weeks running. So take the time while you're driving together, walking, etc., to check in with your teen. I had a friend of multiple boys tell me before my kids were teenagers to take advantage of that forward-facing time, and I really did find that to be true. Some kids will share more with you if they're not having to look right at you. You're just driving along, you're walking somewhere, and they're not feeling like it's so intense. And this also leads into what will you share with your teens? Of course, with social media, they might hear things, maybe hear news that you don't want them to hear. So admitting that you're struggling too can help them open up, but also be careful with oversharing your own struggles because you don't want to add to their anxiety. Tip number 4 is keep them busy, keep making memories, and plan in fun. Keep routines. There's comfort in routines. Even if you've just made a move, and you're also going through a deployment, been there, it's so important to keep some things the same. It can be also tempting to put life on pause in other ways and feel guilty for having fun, but your life does need to go on. One thing my husband always told me was that he enjoyed knowing that we were still doing fun things and creating new memories. I asked my adult children for some of their input on what helped them through deployment. And one thing my 27-year-old daughter said to me was, keep busy. It makes the time go by more quickly and it helps them forget. Maybe it's a trip you've put off and want to do together, a concert, or something you might not normally do. Maybe it's something as simple as going to the movies or exploring the area you live. Maybe it's a date with mom or dad. Make sure that child has alone time with you. You as a solo parent may need it just as much as they do. Mark off your calendar, plan in treats. What do your kids like? Maybe every weekend you have an ice cream day all day or pajama day once a week. These are simple things you can build in and plan for. I know that if I didn't plan for them, the exhaustion of parenting during deployment would tend to overtake me and I would forget to do something fun. And this also helps break up the monotony. Tip number 5 is help your teens connect with the parent that's away. What will that look like? Video chat, messaging if possible. It's not always. One thing we did was we made a photo book on a site like Shutterfly. We printed it out and sent it to ourselves. We all signed it and we sent it to my husband one year for his birthday that we were missing while he was deployed. Are they having any special memories or things occur? Encourage your kids to write them down or put them on little separate slips of paper, add them to a jar, and share them with their parent when they return. You can brainstorm this with your kids about how they can easily connect. They might want to help you make care packages, send things to the other parent. Sometimes even good old-fashioned letter writing. That could be a really fun project. Tip number 6 is recognize when your teens need more help. I am not a mental health expert. I'm just a mom of 4 grown children and now a granddaughter who also happens to be a military brat who's been through 2 deployments of her dad herself. You know your kid best. If you have a gut feeling that something's off or you're noticing significant behavior changes, heightened emotional responses, depression, withdrawing, an inability to connect with others, or increased trouble at school, please reach out for help. Military OneSource has a crisis line available 24/7 via phone or chat. You can call 1-800-342-9647. That's 1-800-342-9647. Or do the live chat on their site at militaryonesource.mil. Let's just do a quick recap of those tips. Tip number 1, remember you don't have to do this alone. Number 2, have a family meeting. Number 3, listen more, talk less. Number 4, keep them busy, keep making memories, and plan in for fun. Tip number 5, help your teens connect with the parent that's away. And tip number 6, recognize when your teens need more help. You can grab your free download of all these tips for deployment and teens on my site. I wish you all the best as you walk with your teens through the deployment of one of their parents. And feel free to tag me on social at MilSpouse Matters on Instagram and Facebook with your own ideas so I can cheer you and your teens on. I'm going to leave you with the mantra I always say at the end of every episode. Remember, you are brave, you are strong, and you've got this. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to the MilSpouse Matters podcast. Connect with me at milspousematters.com or on social media as @MilSpouseMatters. You can find my book, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse, on Amazon and other booksellers. Love the show? Please leave a 5-star review in whatever podcast player you're listening, and then share it with someone else who could use it too. Until next time, have a great week.